Parshas Yisro, Tov Pei Hey. We're here, Baruch Hashem, in Yerushalayim, Yira Kodesh. We're here for the Yarchei Kala of Lakewood, which we do every year, Baruch Hashem. What a tremendous chus it is to be here, to hear shiurim from the Gedolei Eretz Yisrael, Magidei Shir, Mashkichim, Balei Musar. It's been a really, really beautiful week here, and it's always beautiful here in Yerushalayim. You might be able to see some of Yerushalayim behind me. We found a nice place to say this week's shir. And the Nesivos Shalom uses the phrase Shabbos Kabbalas HaTorah for this week. This week, in our parsha, as we know, S.S.S, Kabbalas HaTorah, this is a week for Kabbalos. And that term, Shabbos Kabbalas HaTorah, really means a lot. And it's not just another name for this Shabbos. And the Nesivos Shalom tells us that just like every Yom Tov, where we speak about the Yom Tovim, and we say that every single year, this is one of the big themes of the Nesivos Shalom, that every single year when Yom Tov comes around, so the hashbois and the segulos of that Yom Tov, of each Yom Tov, they're available for us to grab onto each and every year. It comes around again. And really, says in the Nesivos Shalom, it's the same with Kabbalas HaTorah. And just like when we come to Pesach time, it's a time every year of Cherus, Elecha, Ben Chorin Elami, She'oisek b'Torah, someone who learns Torah, that's a truly, really free man. And when it comes Pesach time, the time is more misugel. It's an auspicious time for us to grab on to that Cherus. And when it comes to other times of the year, as we said, Chanukah, renewal, once again, every year we come around, Sukkot time, Emunah, it's a time of the year. It's a time that we go back, right back, to the time of Cherus and the time of Emunah and the time of renewal. And every Rosh Chodesh, every Zman comes along with time. So too says in the Nesivos Shalom that when we read the portion of the Torah, as we're going to do this week, of Kabbalas HaTorah, it's an opportunity and a time for us, for every one of us, to take stock where we are standing in our learning Torah. What's our level? Are we doing enough? Do we learn enough Torah? Do we take our learning time, the time that we have to be Kavei Ha'itim? Do we take that time seriously? Do we learn the Parsha every week? Do we learn Halacha? Do we learn Shas? Do we learn Bavli? Do we learn Yerushalayim? Are you learning Mishnayos? Whatever it is that you might be doing, are you taking it seriously enough? And are you really putting your time, your mind, and your life into Torah? And this is the week to think about that. And then, once we take stock, we need to do what it takes to rectify and to straighten out really any of these things. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs you to take small steps, small adjustments. Let's get back on the road to Kabbalas HaTorah. And anything that's deficient, we can work on that now, before this Shabbos and this Shabbos. And Kabbalas HaTorah doesn't just mean learning the Torah. Kabbalas HaTorah means accepting and living the dinim of the Torah and living the values of the Torah. What kind of person are you? Do you act like a Yid? Do you live by the standards that the Torah demands of us, the Torah wants us to live up to? So really, we have a lot to think about this Shabbos, Kabbalas HaTorah. And we need to want to do it. We have to want to make that move, to do what it takes to be Mekabel the Torah. And Chazal tell us in the Gemara, Masechta Shabbos, Daf Peiches Amud Aleph, that when Klal Yisrael said, Naseh v'nishma, it was a tremendous, unique thing. Naseh, we're going to do, v'nishma, and then we're going to hear, we're going to listen. How does somebody do something before knowing what to do? How do you do that? How is that possible? So Nesivos Shalom explains it And it goes along, really, by something that we've spoken about in the past when it comes to the Avos. The Nesivos Shalom tells us the Avos felt so batel to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they felt so subordinate and dedicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that their bodies and their limbs automatically did the Ratzain Hashem. That's what we have to know. We've mentioned in the past. The Pasuk says by the Akedah, Vayishlach Avraham es Yodoi, Vayikach es Amacheles. Avraham Avinu, and we've spoken about this in the past, but it's kedai to say it over because it's a tremendous word. Avraham Avinu, Vayishlach Avraham es Yodoi. Avraham sent his hand. Vayikach es Amacheles, and it's saying that Avraham Avinu took hold of the knife. Avraham Avinu sent his hand. And really that would seem to be very odd, very certainly superfluous. Who sends their hand, right? You want to move your hand, you move your hand. You don't tell your hand, you don't push your hand, you don't say, go hand, right? Your hand, it's an instinct that your brain in 1 second just, you want to move your hand, you move your hand. What does it mean that Avram sent his hand? But what we have to understand here is that since the Ratzon Hashem by the Akedah, the Ratzon Hashem, as we know, was of course that nothing should happen to Yitzchak Avinu, that Avraham Avinu should not take the knife and not do anything to Yitzchak Avinu. That was the ultimate Ratzon Hashem. So because that was the Ratzon Hashem, the limbs of Avraham Avinu would not move. They wouldn't take hold of the knife because the Ratzon Hashem was that nothing should happen to Yitzchak Avinu. And if Hashem didn't want anything to happen to Yitzchak Avinu, then Avraham Avinu, he was so in tune with what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, that his limbs only did the Ratzon Hashem, so wouldn't move. So the Torah tells us that Avraham Avinu had to send his hand by Yishlach Avraham. No, his hand wouldn't move. He had to send his hand forcefully to grab hold of the Ma'acheles. And this would also explain how it was that Avraham Avinu, Chazal tell us that Avraham Avinu kept the entire Torah before the Torah was given. How's that possible? Because the Torah is Ratzon Hashem, and the Torah is what Hashem wants us to do. So Avraham Avinu was so mevatel himself to the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Memela, his body, Memela, everything Avraham Avinu did went along with what Hashem wants. Of course, he wasn't Mekabel the Torah. Kabbalas the Torah came a few hundred years later. But Avraham Avinu was already doing the will of Hashem. So the Chazal tell us that Avraham Avinu kept the entire Torah before it was given. And this is the level to which Klal Yisro reached before Kabbalas HaTorah. When they said, Na'aseh v'nishma, they were so, at this point, ready for Kabbalas HaTorah. They were attached, they had prepared. They were prepared to receive and take everything of the Torah. They were totally mevatel themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If they were mevatel themselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then they got to that level that we spoke about with Avraham Avinu, that Memela, their bodies, their entire being just did the will of Hashem. So it makes sense. Naaseh, we're going to do because we want to follow Hashem. We're mevatel ourselves to Hashem, and Memela, everything's just going to happen. We're just going to do, and then v'nishma. Of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want to speak to us, we're going to listen. But na'aseh v'nishma, we're going to do it before we even hear. They were so mevatel themselves to Hashem that their evarim automatically, like Avraham Avinu, were doing the Ratzon Hashem even before they heard what it was. The Noam Elimelech says that the entire Torah was given for the reason of Anochi Hashem Elekecha. The first 3 words of the Aseres HaDibros, Anochi Hashem Elekecha. That each person, the entire Torah was given, that each person should reach the level of Anochi Hashem Elekecha, that there's only one thing in this world, and that one thing is Hashem. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So much so that we are mevatel ourselves to the point where we can get to, where we automatically, it's in our heads, we're trained to do what Hashem wants. We're trained to do the Ratzon Hashem. And the best way, says in the Nesivos Shalom, the best way to accomplish that, to get to the point of Anochi Hashem Alekecha, where you're a Yid of the Torah, where a Yid that does the will of Hashem, is through Kabbalah SaTorah. From every one of us making a Kabbalah that once again we're going to renew ourselves and we're going to begin with Anochi Hashem Alekecha. And the lesson for us really, when we come to this Shabbos, Kabbalah SaTorah, the lesson for us really is that Anochi Hashem Alekecha, that represents Emunah and Bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And once we have that, once we concentrate on that, once we do that, that can train our minds and our bodies. Emunah, it's all about you, Hashem. Bitachon, I believe that Hashem's going to do everything and Hashem wants everything for me. It's all about Hashem. And the more we inculcate ourselves with that midah, with that lesson, the more we become Nasev and Nishma Yidin, where we're memela going to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And Nesivos Shalom says, besides preparing before Shabbos Kabbalah SaTorah, Shabbos Kodesh itself causes a person to be mavatal our minds to the will of Hashem. It comes Shabbos, we shut off the outside world, we shut off our technology, we shut off our phones, we get away from all the noise, proverbial noise that's around us, and we concentrate on just being with Hashem, understanding what Hashem does with us, appreciating what Hashem does for us. And the more we train ourselves in this way, the closer we come to doing the right things naturally. The closer we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the closer we come to that level, a little bit, to touch the level of Avraham Avinu and the Avos, of where we are automatically doing and saying and doing everything that we do, we move with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We do what Hashem wants automatically. And that's Nasev and Ishma. Because practically, how does someone do something before they listen? But if you're trained, if you're in tune, and you're attached to Hashem, you mivato yourself to the will of Hashem, Hashem gives you this yata d'shmaya that you go along and everything that you do follows the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's Shabbos Kabbalah SaTorah. Somewhere we have the time of Shavuos and we have Kabbalah SaTorah. But the Nesivos Shalom tells us that this week, now, the next few days, are mesugel for us once again. So everybody take a minute and think about, where can I improve? Of course, in your midos and following the dinim of the Torah, but also in how much time and what do I do about learning the Torah? Am I attached to the Torah? Am I a person who the Torah would be proud of? And it's time now to think about that. Special opportunity here, come close to the Shechina here in Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, but really, wherever you are in the world, Hashem is looking at you, Hashem is listening to you. You can reach Hashem from wherever you are. Remember, this week, Na'aseh v'nishma, Shabbos, Kabbalah SaTorah, may we all be zoicha to come here soon together to Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh.